Today we're going to talk about electrical schematics and electrical drawings. We're going to start with the simplest, which is the pictorial. Beside me you will see a good example of a pictorial. Now there are several different types. The one you see beside me is a doorbell ringer. And it shows the wires coming into the transformer, the black, white, and the green at the top. The wires coming out are red, then they go to the push buttons, then they go to the chime. And this is a classic example of this type of pictorial. There are some other types. Let's take a look at a different type. Let's say you're about to begin a troubleshooting process. And you open a panel and you have no idea which thing is which inside the panel. They all have labels on them, but what are they actually? This is a picture of a panel that shows some motor starters and some overloads and some relays and some transformers and those kinds of things. And I think I even see a PLC down in the bottom part. They are identified on the electrical drawing, but which one is which? You don't know without a pictorial. Let's take a look at a pictorial of a panel. This pictorial drawing shows the back plane in a panel, and each of the devices inside that panel has a designation on it, and beside it there is a chart, and that chart tells you which thing is what inside the panel by its designated nomenclature. This is only to tell what part belongs where in the panel, so you can identify it when you begin your troubleshooting process, or even if you're building the panel. You have to have a pictorial to know where what is placed inside the panel. If a panel is small and only has a few components in it, it is sometimes pretty easy. But if you get into the larger panels where there are hundreds of components, the pictorial comes in really handy to tell you what is what inside. On a regular schematic, the components will be represented by numbers and symbols. Well, if you need to locate that number or symbol, you have to go to the pictorial to find out which thing is which. This drawing shows a much larger panel that has a lot of components on it, and many of them look exactly the same. And if they look exactly the same physically, then it's hard to tell what's what. So that's why the pictorial comes in really handy to identify which thing is which inside the panel. Alright, you've been introduced to the pictorial. Now we're going to take a look at the one-line drawing. This is a one-line drawing you see beside me, and there is a lot of information. The one thing that it does not show is each individual wire. It is a group of wires in each of those situations represented by the green line. The pink represents devices. And we've got like a main circuit breaker up there. We've got a transformer. We have a second circuit breaker, and then we have a switchboard. There's a lot of information on here. It tells us that it is three-phase, 4,408 amps. It also tells us that it is 12.7 kV, kilovolts. That's 12,470 volts. We also know that if we look, and by the way, the pink circle designates a delta winding on a transformer. So we're coming off of a transformer going from a delta configuration to the first circuit breaker. And the first circuit breaker is 150 amps. We have a 140 amp fuse right below that. Then we go to the transformer. The transformer is 1500 kVA. That's 1500 kilovolt amps. It is 12,470 volts stepped down to 600 volts. We can find that also. If we look on the other side, we can see a 3C with a 4. 3C means it is a 3 conductor. It gives us all the information about the wires. It gives us information about the ratings of all the components. There is a ton of information here, but it is still not a full-blown schematic. But we're getting closer to what a schematic is. Here's a different one-line schematic or drawing. This particular one shows power distribution. That is fairly common for one lines to be used for power distribution purposes. It's an overall view of where the power comes into the facility, wherever it may be, and it is distributed throughout that facility. This drawing shows us how that happens. It takes us to all of the main breakers. It also shows us the types of wire, the size of the wire. This particular one says it's all copper, which is fairly typical to use all copper wire in power distribution. The purpose of this video was purely an introduction to the 3 types. We will go into great detail of each type, explaining exactly what everything means on each one of these drawings that we use as examples. And we may even have a couple of episodes on the full-blown schematic. However, for today, we're going to stop with the one line. So we've given you an introduction to the 2 types that are not schematics. That would be the one line and the pictorial. And we will look into the full-blown schematic next episode. Thank you for watching.